Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Painted in Color podcast. I'm co-host Lauren Brown, joined by co-hosts Mia Araujo and Eric Wilkerson. Today, we are going to talk about time management and how to get our schedules together when we are facing the wall of deadlines, which is it's a topic that is very near and dear because I think all three of us are staring down the barrel of deadlines, and it's not fun, and it's a really hard place to be in. And every artist who's done any job or has worked freelance or has worked full time, anything like that, is very familiar with the stress and pressure of deadlines. So we're going to talk about it, talk about how our methods work against deadlines and how we cope through it, and how we schedule our time to effectively meet them. So Mia, what's your deadline right now? Tell us a little bit about it. Tell us a story.
Oh, I have a few deadlines. I did take on some freelance this year and last year, and so I just turned in sketches for this particular one, and my final is due first week of August, so it's not a lot of time. But I'm like waiting to hear feedback from an art director, and that part is new to me because, as you guys know, I mostly self-directed work. And so at any point where I'm like, I don't like where the sketch is going, I can change it and get it done in time.
Yeah.
And so I'm not used to this, like, of not only just obviously somebody telling me what to do, and it might be a little bit outside of my wheelhouse, but then that waiting period of here's the sketches, and now you all have to review and then come back to me and tell me what to change. And then I have to submit it again. And that whole thing is not something I've ever had to factor into my deadlines. And so yeah, there's that. And then for my book, I have a writing deadline in the middle of August. And I set up a deadline for myself on my Patreon for another painting I'm doing. So many deadlines.
Wow. When is the deadline for your Patreon painting?
I didn't set one because I figured this was going to happen, but I basically said by the end of this month, I wanted to have the drawing done. And that's not going to happen unless by some miracle in 2 days, it just pops into my head and it materializes. But I've been working on it. It's just not, it's got like 10 characters. And of course I did that to myself. So
Wow, Mia.
party, it's like, it's an epic scene. It's got to have a lot of people in it. So,
Enemy characters, good heavens. Yeah, and like the thing too about having to wait around for people to give you feedback, like you still have to adhere to the same deadline no matter how long they take to get back to you, right?
yeah.
So that additional stress of having to wait for somebody to get back to you and still having to deliver the same amount of work as if you would have not had feedback. Like, what does that feel like? It can't be fun to have to just like wait around.
Yeah, it's definitely, I realize that it's part of it for a lot of people, like Eric especially is probably so used to it, but so it is kind of hard to get used to for me. But actually something I didn't mention is I just finished up an even shorter deadline for a piece that I ended up actually doing digitally, and it was my first ever digital painting that I've done since art school. And I was basically just doing a color comp, and my friend Shreya was like, just finish it, it looks so good. And I was like, no, this feels weird. But I had to do it because the deadline was so short, and I
Yeah.
finished the painting in like 3 days. There's no way I could have done that traditionally. So that's actually how I'm hoping to go with each one of these freelance projects, is to kind of keep building on those digital skills and
Mhm.
hopefully make up for that lost time in terms of feedback that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because yeah, in the outset when they say you have 3 weeks for the final, I'm like, that's plenty of time, and it's like, oh no, but there's feedback in there too.
Yeah, it's just like it's actually probably a week and a half's worth of time that you actually have to
Yeah,
finish this project.
yeah,
So
and it's
yeah, it's
two
really
pieces.
cutting it in
It's
half.
2 pieces too, so I'm like, oh, this is
God, Mia. Oh. I wish you luck. We'll get back to how, like what other methods you have to cope with it. But first, Eric, tell us about your deadline. The pain in your face
yeah.
is speaking volumes right now.
I mean, it's just like it's active. This is like a it's the most overwhelmed I've ever been in my entire life. It's kind of like the company has gone beyond just shooting off emails going, "Hey, just checking in. Uh are you how's it going?" Like it's very polite. They're all very everybody's very polite. Everybody's very cool to work with, but everybody is stressed out. right?
Yeah.
And it's gone to text messages. Is
Oh,
it done yet?
Are you
Is it
serious?
done yet? Is it done yet? You're like,
You know how long it takes to make art, right?
no, like
Yeah, I guess not.
nobody,
No one knows.
nobody cares, and it's, um, but it's, I'm not nervous about finishing it. It's just I worry about the quality level,
Yeah.
you know, and because typically on a children's book you get a year,
Mm-hmm.
you know, not 4 months. So I realize now why some books look the way they do, because I used to look at, I used to before I had kids, I used to collect children, I still collect children's books, so I used to collect stuff or look in the stores and go, man, the artist really phoned this in. God, I would have killed that, right? Now I realize, oh, okay, I can.
So maybe with a year and a half, you would have.
Right, right. And I understand why certain illustrators don't do celebrity books, um, or don't do them anymore. Like they
Mhm.
started out their careers doing them, but they don't do them anymore. Um, Mainly because they've got a couple of Caldecots, a couple of Coretta Scott King Awards or something like that under their belt, and they can say, "Nah, I'm good."
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think you look nice
um,
anymore.
but this has been quite uh, an opportunity, and it's just um, it's just a little overwhelming. The amount of stuff I have to calculate in my head as far as time management. I have to get X amount of pieces done per day, pages per day. Um, like I've got family members, kids helping me out, like drawing stuff,
What?
and I mean it's a whole family affair. I got
Oh my
cousins in
God.
Atlanta, like I need you to pose like this, and like I'm directing photo shoots through the phone.
What?
I need you to do this, and I'm like, oh my God, like I've never directed a photo shoot through FaceTime before. I'm like, it needs to be more like this. I'm like, oh God.
Oh, you got your
While
family
bathing my kid,
involved.
I'm like, no, 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 this isn't right. I gotta like stop and I'm like, actively texting family members, like, you need to pose like this, like lower the phone, like maybe go inside because we're losing sunlight, right? Like this has become my life, and
Oof.
it's overwhelmingly stressful. Um, and but there's maybe a few thousand new people that know I exist.
And there's definitely going to be a lot more once that book comes out too.
Yeah. So, I'm not, I'm not too worried about getting it finished. It's just I worry about the quality, because
Yeah.
I don't want somebody to go like, the same kind of reaction I had looking at stuff, going, man, like the cover looked cool, but then like page 12 is like, eh. And like, oh, God.
it
I
reminds
So
mean,
me of the stuff that people say when they watch a movie, and they don't know all the process that goes into filming and all that stuff. And it's so easy to just sit there and be like, that was a piece of shit, or like, that was horrible. But they
oh,
right,
I can do it better.
right.
no, I'm just
And
saying, it just reminds me of how critical people can be when they don't
Oh,
actually
yeah.
do everything
oh
that goes
yeah.
into it.
And I mean, I'm more aware of that now than ever, especially, within the past few years, having gone from a single art director or author approving my stuff to having whole committees discuss it. And
Hmm.
then me being in limbo for like a week and a half, like, is this done? I need to get paid. Like, what's up? Oh, we forgot to tell you. Yeah, it's approved. Like, God damn.
That's why I was waiting.
Are you serious?
Oh,
or Mia, you were saying, you're working on stuff and the deadline doesn't change even if it takes them like a week
Mhm.
to get you back feedback. I don't play that game anymore.
Mhm.
Like, no, because I'm on one series where the client, I send off sketches and the client takes damn near a month. Like the last cover I did, it took them a month
Mhm.
to approve it.
Wow.
And then what ends up happening for my schedule, since I'm also teaching and I've got other things lined up, is everything ends up bottlenecking because of one job.
Yeah.
Like that month that I was sitting around waiting, being able to spend time with my family, play video games, watch a movie, go to bed early, it was just wasted time when I could have just wrapped up the job and finished painting it. Now everybody's like, "Oh, yeah, it's approved. We need it by this date." I'm like, "Well, you can't have it by that date because you wasted a month. Like, what were y'all doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you approved it like maybe 3 weeks ago and then forgot about it until I asked." Like, I physically can't give it to you by your date now,
Yeah.
So what did you do in that
right?
situation?
Well, then they realize that that's, their fault, and
Yeah.
they extend the deadline. But then by them extending the deadline, it overlaps onto other things,
Yeah.
and then I end up juggling the teaching job two freelance jobs on top of that
Yeah.
at the same time. And then, you know stress levels increase, don't eat, don't sleep properly, and it, like, there's a ripple effect
Mhm.
that happens because of that.
Yeah.
So even if I try to schedule things well enough in advance, or schedule things not well enough in advance, but schedule things apart far enough, if things aren't approved in time, it still ends up with me sitting there juggling two things at once, and it drives me nuts. But, you know, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I was sitting in my basement contemplating, you know, taking, doing something completely different with my life.
Yeah.
So, this is what I asked for.
And it's so funny too, because at the outset, when we were accepting these projects, we were like, oh, yeah, we can totally handle that. I got this. We can do this. And then you get into the thick of it and you're like, why did I ever take this project? What made me think I could do this? Like, you're just like, you look at your past self, like, who were you to agree to this project? And then, but like, the thing is, like, once you get there, once you get past it, you finished it, and you can look back at the work that's being released out into the wild, and you're like, I'm glad I took that project on. And that's what
Yeah,
art is like.
yeah,
It's like this awful, like torturous cycle of hubris, and then pain and despair and sadness, and then
yeah.
accomplishment.
It is. It
Realize what you've
is.
done.
What is that chart? I've seen that chart somewhere where it's like the timeline for an illustrator or freelancer, where it's like procrastinate, 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 like 80%, and then like that final little slash time. It's like, oh my god, like now you're gonna put in the work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's never like that for me. I'm like nonstop. But I remember asking. So before I had a family, I could just get up, work from like 8, 9, or like 10 in the morning till like 7 o'clock at night, get hungry, and only stop when I felt like I was getting hungry, cook something, play a video game real quick, go back to work around 9,
Mm-hmm.
and then, continue working on something to hit my deadline until maybe like midnight, something like
Yeah.
that, midnight, 1 in the morning, until I can't do it anymore, and then I get up and go do something else, go exercise or play a video game, whatever. But I was aware of my time, like what I could and could not accomplish. After having a family, my part of my brain forgets that I'm not alone.
Mm.
So when I get an email going, hey, Eric, are you available? We want you to do this blah, blah, blah project. And I'm like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. Oh my God, its pay is amazing. Oh, of course I'm going to do that. And then I go, when?
You're like, hold on.
or the problem is I'll go, hell yes, exclamation point, send.
Yeah, and you're like,
Uh-oh, I'm not alone anymore. I got to teach, I got the kids, I don't want to neglect everybody in my life. How am I going to do this? And it always ends up bottlenecking and making a bad situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess this ends up happening to every busy illustrator at some point in their life. And I was just thinking about that the other day. Like every illustrator that I've met that blew up at some point and started a family and everything was going good, at some point you see less and less of their work out there.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know what they do for income, but at some point they can't physically do it anymore. So I hope that's not going to be me anytime soon, but the time management, like I know we're talking about time management, so it's hard. It's really hard to juggle everything and know when to say no. But you also don't want to say no to the clients you always wanted to work with, because after a while, there's the fear that they're going to stop asking. Well, he clearly doesn't want to do the job. He keeps telling us no. Right? That bothers me. That sits in the back of my head too. I'm like, I've wanted to work with this client for so long, and I keep having to tell him no.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole concept of that dream job, right? Like when it comes across your plate and you're just like, this is what I've always wanted to work on. This sounds like an amazing project. This is landing in everything that I ever wanted. It makes it so impossible to say no, because you're just like, what am I turning down if I do that? And it's just like, a lot of people don't think, what am I sacrificing if I take this job?
Yeah.
Like we don't, like a lot of times that thought process doesn't go there. It only goes like, but what, like I can't turn this down, like I have to make a name for myself. And you know, of course, you at a certain point, yeah, this is your profession, you want to do as much work as you can on things that will suit you for sure, but you also have to consider, you know, what actually do you have going on? Because, you know, if, for example, somebody like me who has a full-time job, I don't have kids, but I have a full-time job, and I'm over here taking on freelance like I got all the time in the world, you know, 52 cards, how bad could it be?
That's only as many weeks as there are in a year.
Yeah.
How bad could it be?
How bad could it be? Like,
jeez.
Really? Girl, what were you thinking? Yeah, that's my deadline right now. I'm at the tail end of this project. I started it in 2019. We had a Kickstarter run where I had to start with the, gosh, I think it was 20 cards. That even the 20 cards was a lot. That was a lot, because my problem is that I started this job with this style. Like I could just do that all the time. Like that's not going to work. That's not going to work at all. That's detail. That's attention. This piece took me 16 hours. Like you can't do that to every card. So like I started off badly. Like I should have simplified and should have kind of you know, edited myself in order to actually complete a job with still good art, but art that wasn't the highest fidelity art that I could do. And I started to temper that style after a while and started to find shorthands that still communicated what I was doing without, you know, skimping on too much quality. And there's some cards in there that are not, you know, they're not the best things I've ever drawn. It's not going to be, but some of them are pretty good and some of them are like, oh, all right. But like, I'm like, my goal is I don't want to turn out a crappy one. Like, I just don't want to make a bad piece of art for this game. And then the deadline starts to approach, and I'm like, I think I'm gonna have to start making a few bad pieces of art for this game.
Oh,
And yeah, because I took this card, like I was so excited about this project, and I'm excited for it to come out and be in the world and for it to be done. And I'm definitely appreciative that I was even approached to do this. I think it was really cool. But when I took it, all I saw was, my art style in the briefs. And I was like, my portfolio, I'm like, this is really cool. Like, I am being asked to do what I do. How exciting is that? This should always be fun all the time for me. And it's not fun all the time because you're repeating motions. You're going through it over and over and over again when you would rather be relaxing after you've already worked a full day, or you'd rather be outside, or you'd rather be hanging out with friends, or you would rather be, at the bouldering gym working out or doing something interesting, or even replanting plants in your backyard. And instead of doing all of those things, you have to be faced with this project that you need to finish. And not only does it start to burn you out, but it starts to create a resentment as well. It's just like this damn thing again. Like your attitude towards the thing that's in front of you starts to become worse because you look at it as a preventative measure from like keeping you from living your life. And that's what happens when you take on a big project. It's been my experience every single time. And I've been trying to reframe my mindset, but it's really hard to because there's days where I know I need to do work and I just can't. Like I really can't. I just get so exhausted to even think about it. And it's just I have to slog my way through, and then I get burnt out, and then the cycle repeats itself because I didn't know how to say no. And after this project is over, I cannot take on any freelance anymore because like these deadlines, if you look at them when you first see them and they seem like they're all the way across the world. Wow, I have so much time to do this.
yeah.
And it's worse for me because, full disclosure, I have ADHD. And so, the executive dysfunction comes in where I can't really tell the work that's in front of me. I'm like, it's fine. It's fine. There's other things in front of me to deal with right now. I can't do this right now. And then I start to look at like the scope of the project. I'm like, I should probably start like doing something about this. And then I start working. I'm like, okay, I'm going at a pretty good pace. Oh no, it's May. And then the date just like starts to approach and you don't know what happened. And then you find yourself needing to do all of this work all at once. And, that's when the fire under the butt starts. And you're like, wow, like I have a day where I do 10 sketches in a row. And I'm like, wow, I bodied that. That was amazing. Why can't I do this every day? It's because maybe you have ADHD and that's what your brain doesn't like to do at all. So, but I'm trying to figure out how to cope with it better and how to balance my time better and also how to be healthier too, because I think that what I have been doing my whole life has been saying that I can take on this challenge. Of course I can take on this challenge. This is what I'm good at. I know how to meet deadlines. I know how to be fast, but all those things come at a cost. All those things have a sacrifice that are attached to it. So if you're saying that you're going to deliver something in some kind of time schedule that's going to start to crunch you, then sometimes you've got to think about what you're actually going to go through when you're in the thick of it. And a lot of times you can't see that stage of the process when you're in the thick of it. So what I need to start doing, and I think what a lot of us need to start doing, is to do the thing where you under promise and you over deliver. That is like antithetical to my entire working life and my entire method and my entire ideology to say, it's like, I don't think I can do this, but maybe this, like if you push it out a little bit more, maybe, and then you can deliver it because you've said like, you like, but that's so hard for me to do because I love being able to say, I can do it, and to be able to meet that challenge and to be able to say, hey, I can take that on. I'm so proud of myself for being able to do this so fast. But as you get older, this is not really a healthy way to live anymore. And you got to be more realistic with yourself. And you got to know who you are too. I'm really starting to learn who I am through all of this process and knowing that like, hey, maybe I shouldn't be taking on huge projects anymore. Like maybe this is not really like how I'm best at working. It's like, I think I need to take like, one thing with a big time allotment that's going to cover me for a while. And then I can make a bunch of different things out of it. But having a long-term project of many things is going to diminish your quality and it's going to burn you out. and it's going to run you into the ground. And sometimes you have to pick your battles and understand which battles you can actually fight and which ones you're like, I think that I'm not suited for this, or I'm not ready to take this on, or maybe I am going to need more time. Can we get an extended deadline for this? And be realistic with your clients about those deadlines. Be real with them. Say, like, for example, me, hey, I work full time. So there's only a certain amount of work and I can actually give you in a certain amount of timeline because I need to like rest and live my life as well as doing this project. And because we tend to overpromise and underdeliver, like we often slip that. We often don't tend to do that. So I'm trying to reframe my mind to be healthier about that if I ever start taking on freelance again, which is probably not going to be for a long time. So yeah.
It's interesting. I wonder if the two of you feel this way, but I feel a real sense of guilt whenever I'm considering taking on a job of thinking I have to live my life during this deadline too. And
Mm-hmm.
any other job, they have 9 to 5 and they just go home and they can go have or go get drinks, afterwards and hang out with their friends. But I think for me as an artist, when I have especially several deadlines, I almost feel guilty if I take some time off and like watch TV, even if it's just for an hour. And it's like that's part of life. That's part of what helps me make this thing actually. And that's been a real learning curve for me, is just understanding how to build in my me time into the deadline itself so that I don't feel that guilt, because I can still complete it in time and I didn't have to stay up all night. And even if it takes me longer to make the amount of money I would have if I didn't have any of those breaks, I'm actually now at this age willing to do that because of the quality of life stuff that you're saying, Lauren. It's like, I don't want to live my life as the perpetual grind that they sold to us in art school. I don't want that life. Some people enjoy that, but I realized that I don't. And it's just, yeah, I think that self-awareness piece is really, really important, about knowing not only how you work, how quickly you work, but also just how your brain processes, like the juggling of different projects, like you said, or different size projects. I think all of that was super spot on. So I'm glad you touched on that.
Yeah, like, yeah, man, art school, like, definitely, they packaged us up and sold us as factories in our own right. Like, they were just like, yeah, you can just go and churn out content and you'll be amazing and you have to do this your whole life. And
Yeah.
it's just like, yeah, some people can do that. Some people have that single-minded focus of just this one thing. That's all I can do. I'm okay with doing this forever. And like Eric was saying, like sometimes those artists start to fade into obscurity because you realize you cannot do something like that forever. And I mean, so there's some artists who have been able to do that for their whole life, and I don't know what their life is. But for me, work-life balance is something that has become really important to me as I've been getting older. Just seeing how my fellow artists will injure themselves, and the illnesses that they get, and the burnout, and the fact that they have to turn all these things down that are just life experiences. I can't travel. I have to do this job, or I can't hang out with you right now. I have to do this. And that was me, especially when I was in Atlanta. Like, there were so many things that I had turned down and people that I didn't hang out with, potential like partners that I probably could have had if I had dedicated more time to them instead of working on freelance while I was working on full-time stuff. And I'd realized all these things, like going back into old chats and seeing all these things that I turned down. I'm like, was that worth it? Like, this job didn't even pay me that much. Like, it wasn't even worth it to ditch my friends to do this freelance projects. Like, why did I choose that over life? I was like, I can't choose that over life anymore. And so I don't do that anymore. Like, I even with this project that I'm working on now, there's a looming deadline and I'm afraid of it. But I can't stay up all night finishing it. I have to focus on my health. I need to sleep. I gotta go to bed by 1 a.m. or else it's not gonna be a good time the next day. And I need to be able to work and have a brain. So I can't do that. On the weekends, like, I try to make some social time, even if I'm spending a lot of it working. I'm like, last Saturday, that was my 10 sketch blitz by 4 p.m., which was crazy. And then I was like, you know what? Like, it's four. Like, my friends were like, hey, we want to play Magic the Gathering. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I am going to go play Magic. I'm going to come back and go and do work in the evening, but I'm going to play Magic right now because I think that it's good for me to have social experience in between me having to suffer through this job. And I'm really happy I did that because I didn't miss out on something that I could have, easily turned down for the sake of a project. But I'm just like, there's some things that are more worth it than just work. And I think that's what a lot of artists need to understand, is that we need to take time to live life as well as do our work.
Absolutely.
And we're not going to be able to do our work if we don't live any life. We don't have any experiences to draw from.
Exactly.
I know there's somebody trying to get into whatever artistic industry they want to get into, thinking, man, what a bunch of whiners. Like,
Okay.
or like you're like you're gonna get there. You're gonna get to that point in your life where you're like, oh my God, I am burnt out. You haven't gotten there yet. All right.
Yeah.
So keep your comments to yourself.
And also keep that mindset to yourself,
Right.
because your work-life balance is actually really important. You need to live. And you
Yeah.
know, like as a manager, I tell like my reports all the time. I keep seeing them on Slack at like 10 p.m. and I'm like, hey, like what are you doing? Go offline. Like what, why are you still here? There's no reason for you to be working overtime. Like I want everybody to value their work-life balance, because
Yeah.
it's important. Value yourself, because the
'Cause-
more artists who don't, like the less clients who are going to understand that we actually need that.
Yep. The question that has, I was told, popped up this summer was, when is daddy going to be able to come to the pool?
Aww.
Right. So that crushed me.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'm doing stuff that I've always wanted to do. I've been excited that like there's more companies that want me to do it, but at the same time having to pause on life.
Yeah.
Right. And then it made me think of um this visit. I went to the Society of Illustrators back when I was in college with a couple of friends of mine, and Norman Rockwell's son was giving a lecture. And I'm pretty sure this is common knowledge to anybody that's read any of Norman Rockwell's books. But like he wasn't there a lot throughout his family's life. Like I think one of his wives had a full-on nervous breakdown because she was in charge of the entire household, taking care of the kids, cooking, cleaning, everything, while he was off in his studio doing post covers or whatever else he was, doing, because he's world famous. And this dude, I don't know how old he was. This was like 99 when I was sitting in the society listening to him speak. And he was like doing a slideshow, and I was starting to nod off. But then when I woke up, he was telling the story about how when he was a kid, he remembered that his father would, Christmas Day, his father would come down the stairs, sit in his favorite chair, light his pipe, and watch his kids open up their Christmas gifts. Once he saw that they were satisfied and happy with their gifts, he bounced and went off to the studio to go paint, and they didn't see him until it was time for dinner.
Wow.
Christmas Day.
Wow.
So I thought to myself, damn, I don't ever want to be that guy. Been that guy 2 Christmases in a row. So that's like, that hurts. It makes me feel stupid. It hurts my family. It hurts me. And you say, like, for what? A couple $1,000?
Yeah, like nobody on their deathbed ever said, I wish I worked more, right? That's like something they've literally asked old people, what do you wish you'd done more? No one has said more work, even artists, like we have this legacy thing where it's like so many artists want to leave behind, our work and all this kind of stuff. I feel like as much as we are drawn to that idea, a lot of us, I don't know. I feel like at the end of the day, like life, itself is what's going to enrich your work as well. And so even if you do 1 or 2 less pieces, is that worth it? Like missing out on all that stuff. Like it's just, and I know to your younger listeners, that your theoretical younger listeners you were just mentioning, that we might sound like a bunch of old people because I certainly wasn't thinking like this in my 20s or my teens, It's all about, yes, I'm going to turn out so much work and make so many masterpieces and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I feel like that's a little bit of immaturity speaking, you don't have a lot of perspective in terms of what's really important, and you're more single-minded about what you're passionate about. But as we've all been in this career for at least 10 years, like each of us. And it's like our priorities have changed, and our circumstances have changed, and that's made us sort of reflect on how we want to be spending our time. And I think I read this somewhere recently where they're saying, like, day in day out, like whatever that is, that's your life. And to like really look at it like that, like that's literally your life. And I think I really thought about that when I was working 2 jobs in the service industry and hardly painting, and I was saying, this is my life. I'm not an artist right now, I'm doing this work. And it was really depressing because I was like, if I die tomorrow, this will be it, you know. But even though we're doing art for a living, all of us, I feel like, I don't know, I guess what I'm trying to say in a really kind of roundabout way is like, sometimes it's good to just take a moment and just take a beat and just reassess where you are and be like, what are the things I like about where I'm at and what I don't like, and the things you have control over, to maybe start putting that into motion of how you can change that. Because obviously we're always in situations sometimes in life where we can't control our circumstances and we're stuck doing something we hate, or we're stuck in a lifestyle that's very toxic or bad for our health or our families, like you were mentioning, Eric, and there's nothing you can do about it in that moment. But as long as you at least have the intention that you're like Lauren, at least when I'm done with this project, I'm not going to take on more, or whatever it is, like that's an intention to set into motion some kind of change, to like change what your life is right now. And I think that's really important, because otherwise routine is so easy, right? It's like, this is what I know, so I'm going to keep doing this. And that's what you want to kind of avoid if you find yourself in some kind of toxic, you know, situation of any kind, or burnout. So
yeah, for those younger listeners, it's like there's so many people who are younger and who, I mean, some people who are older as well, old school people, who will glorify that burning the candle at both ends kind of lifestyle. And I'm here to tell you, it's not cute. Don't glorify. It's really not cute. It doesn't feel good. It's not going to be good for your health. You're going to pay for it when you're older. Like, don't do it. I promise you, it is not worth it. It really isn't.
Whether you're an artist or an Olympic athlete.
exactly.
Yep.
At some point, you got to say, you know what? I don't have to prove anything to anybody. I know I'm good.
Yeah. And
I
that's
need to go to
maturity.
sleep. I need to, like, the stress level has to go down or I'm going to hurt myself.
Great. I'm so glad you
Absolutely.
brought that up, because I see that as that's like a sign of strength, to know what your limits are and to say, I don't need to prove this to anybody, because again, the world wants more and more and more. It's never enough for them, you know. It's like when you see greatness, when you see the greatest of all time, you just want to keep seeing them perform. And it's like, she doesn't have anything to prove to anybody. None of us do, like you just said. So I think that's spot on for sure.
Yeah. That really hit me hard too. Like the fact that there was somebody who was so elevated and so lauded by every single person. They're just like, oh, like we're counting on this person to carry everything. And to be able to walk away and say, no, actually, like I have an injury. It's a mental injury.
Yeah.
And I can't compete until I get better mentally. Like so few people have talked about that aspect of just working or being a professional or being an athlete, et cetera, et cetera. Like no one talks about the mental strain about a lot of things, and the fact that she was able to walk away because of mental strain and knowing that that was going to get her hurt, and that could have killed her. It could have killed her to power through. I am so much more proud of her for walking away than if she had tried to power through it, because she could have easily hurt herself. And a lot of gymnasts had like the ones who have said that they've gone through that before. They're just like, I got injured, like broke my neck trying to power through this. And to know that it's a condition and to be able to walk away, that's so important. And it's the same deal, even though artists are, you know, we're much less high stakes, but really some artists can kill themselves early if they work way too hard. Like you get different conditions, you lose sight of your health.
Yeah.
You know, you can get heart conditions, you can just injure your body. Like there's so many things that you can do to yourself by thinking that you can just power through. And mentally as well. There's certain traumas that you just can't come back from. And part of that stress, that's traumatic to have to deal with that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not healthy for you. So it's something that people need to understand, that it's as important as a physical injury, to protect your mind as well as your body.
Yeah.
It's a marathon, not a sprint, like this whole career, you know? So it's like, I would just like suggest that in terms of time management, it's like everything you take on, don't think of it like, oh, I'll just sprint through this and get this done. It's like, how will this affect the whole picture of where my life is right now? and can I take it all on? And I know that's easier said than done, because I do the same thing. When I get an exciting email, I'm like, I can't turn this down. But I have sort of trained myself to just wait at least a few hours before responding, like saying that's not rude to wait a few hours. I can process this, and not like impulse respond, because I will most likely say yes. But yeah, it's like, I think everything you say yes to is a no to something else in your life right now, and that's good to keep in mind. And for me, it's like I've always wanted to work on this book. This is like my dream, and everything I say yes to that's not that, it means that's getting slowed down. But at the same time, like, it's a balance, there's no such thing as like a perfect time in your life where you'll get to do everything you want. There will always be compromise. And I think there, at least for me, there's always this idea of like, well, one day there will be nothing else to do but this. And that doesn't exist, like, unless you're rich, like unless you're crazy rich and have no cares in the world, no illness, nothing, like that will never happen. And so it's always going to be a juggling act like that in terms of time management. So I guess just like get comfortable with the struggle of it is what I would say.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I quoted this before on the show, but allow me to reiterate it again. That quote I saw that just says, adulthood is saying, my schedule will clear up next week every day until you die.
Oh, no. And then it finally does. Like, how sad is that?
I know. And I'm like, I really don't want to live like that. But yeah, like I think part of what I need to start thinking about going forward with my time management, and with, if I take on big projects, or even if it's my own big project, I need to consider the actual things that I want to do in life. I have to make time in my schedule for life. And so everything that you do for this job, put your things that you have in life in your schedule too, so that you can schedule around that. Like, having actual allowances in your schedule for you to live and make time to do work and be able to slot it in. Not every day can be a work day. Like, you have to have days off, and you have to have days where you can do your own thing. Try not to lose sight of the fact that you have to maybe clean your house, or the fact that you have to take care of your pets or your kids, or the fact that you have to maybe make time to make food, or eat dinner, or do laundry, or go outside, or do something else. All those things, they belong in your schedule too. It cannot just be all work. And a lot, I am super guilty of this. And I would just say, oh, I can just do this 3 evenings in a row and it should be fine. And I'm like, then I don't think, I'm like, oh, but I have to do this, but I have to actually do laundry. Oh, but I have to do dishes. I have to clean the kitchen. Like, you don't consider all that stuff. Try to consider the things that you have to do while you're also considering where you're putting your schedule for your work.
Yeah.
And then you'll have a much more realistic schedule, and then you'll have a better sight of where your deadline should actually fall. And then you know what to expect for yourself in the future. And this is something that I thought about, like really thought about intentionally, like during this conversation. And so I'm going to try to put it into practice as best I can. And I think it's really important.
Something I do, I don't know if you guys do this, but it's like I always underestimate how long something's going to take me. So I actually just recently started making a fake deadline for myself that's like a week ahead of the deadline, or if it's a really short turnaround time, it's like 2 days before. And I actually turned in my last freelance project like a day early because of that. So even doing like 2 days before, I was still, I still overshot a day, you know what I mean? But I still had that padding to have that extra day. But
Yeah.
it's really stupid. But it's like all the gallery shows, all the conventions, everything I've ever done up until this point, that deadline was that deadline in my head. And I don't know, like I was always down to the last minute and going, why is this happening? And it's just, I don't know why it took me so long to learn that, but that really, really helped. And the other thing I do too is, I should show you this. I have this productivity planner from Intelligent Change, it's intelligentchange.com. But what they do is like you have your priorities each week. It's like 1 through 5 most important things, and then secondary and additional tasks. And I actually rarely go all the way down. It's like usually 5 things a week. And then it breaks it down per day. Most important thing of the day. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I can see it.
And then secondary and all. And then basically at the end of the week, it has you do like a post-mortem, and it asks you, what were your weekly wins? What did you not complete? What have you learned? And how will you make next week better? And it's kind of like analyzing what I want to do, what I actually did, and what I didn't do. And that's like slowly helping me like figure out what my current schedule of productivity is, because that's something like that I don't think is set in stone. Like the way you used to produce 10 years ago is not going to be the same way you produce today. Your skills evolve, you know, you learn new things, you know, and all that kind of stuff slows you down or speeds you up. And so for me, it's like constantly like analyzing how I work and analyzing how I plan things for myself and whether that's realistic or not. Because
Yeah.
I will always tell someone it'll take me less time to do something than it actually does because I'm ashamed of how long things actually take. But then that ends up screwing me over. So there's no shame in how long I produce. I'm just a slow painter and creator. And if people want to work with me, they have to know, you know what I mean? Like it has to line up. And
Yeah.
so, but if you know that about yourself, then you can say, well, I guess I can't take as many projects on because I'm slow. So I have to make up money in some other way. And again, that's back to that being real with yourself about who you really are as a creator. And again, not comparing yourself to others, not seeing the output that you see online and thinking that's who you should be, or seeing the deadline and saying, oh shoot, I have to do this for every piece. You can meet that deadline, that crazy deadline, stay up all night, and then go back to just creating at a normal pace, you know?
I'm gonna slide this in like that GIF image I use on Facebook all the time. What is it? Wait. This one goes hashtag facts.
Back.
That guy. I'm gonna be that guy.
Hashtag facts. Yeah.
Right.
You feel it, aren't you, Eric?
Oh my God. Yeah, I already told my agent after this I'm not doing anything for the rest of the year. Don't. I'm, I'm like I mean, other than I want to do more magic cards, but like at this point, that's the only thing I've been given my wife's blessing to do. like, like you could sell that,
Yeah.
right? And make more money, but these things you're killing yourself over and like spending time and not being able to go do family stuff, that's got to stop.
Yeah.
And like I see that now, and I'm aware like it's not just my time, you know, that I'm pissing away on random jobs and saying yes to everything. It's time, it's life, you know, and you know, as part of my brain is aware of that, and the other part of my brain is, what? It's this company. Oh my God, right? I can't believe they actually contacted me. And those two parts of my brain have been in conflict for for a while. But when my daughter asks, like, when is daddy going to be able to come to the pool, like that almost made me cry.
Yeah.
Like, all right, I get it, I gotta stop. So um I plus I want to get away from the computer. Like trying to mimic oil painting in the computer is boring at this point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like I want to just go paint.
Yeah.
And there are very few clients out there, companies out there that give you the time to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And when they call you and say, hey, are you available, you can't keep telling them no. You know, because there's like a whole line of folks like, I'll do it.
Mm-hmm. Like, I'll do
Get
it.
out the way.
Like, what?
Dumbass. Get out the way. Jeez. So yeah.
But those people are sacrificing something too.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not, nothing comes for free. You're not doing any job for, you know, like it's the amount of money obviously that you're getting, but it's costing you something as well. And it always costs you something, whether or not it's just time or whether or not it's time that you actually get to do things that are enriching your life in a different kind of way. Like everybody's sacrificing something by taking on these jobs. And that's true of any, like literally any work that anybody has ever done, of course. But you really do have to put it on a scale in a way. Is this more valuable than XYZ? Is this more valuable than spending time with my family? Is this more valuable than getting proper sleep at night? Is this more valuable than my health? You know, like there's always a scale. You have to figure out which side is more important, which one weighs more. And as an artist who's hungry and wants stuff so bad, wants to get your name out there, wants to, you know, be known about this thing or that thing. It's really hard to properly weigh that scale a lot. So I really like Mia, your method of not responding right away to an offer. That's a really good method to not get so hyped up that you forget yourself in the moment and you forget who you are, because it's really easy to see that job and you're like immediately, oh my God, yes. And you're like, wait, like what did I just sign up for? I just agreed to this. Yeah. And it was funny because I mean, I just went through this too, where like for the first time, I really like, I had declined something after I realized that it wasn't going to be healthy for me. And I had already agreed to it, but I didn't sign the contract yet. I wasn't locked in. We talked about this like offline, and I realized that it was something that wasn't paying that much money. It was something that had a super tight deadline, and it was another long-term project. It was going to be 28 pages of a book. And I'm just like, wait, the last children's book I worked on, I was suffering. The last one before that, I was also suffering. Why am I going to suffer for this? For it's like also like no royalties, which is why would I ever do that?
Oh, no.
And very little money. And I'm like, I don't need this job. Why am I taking this? And I'm like, you know what? No, I can't do this. Like, this is just not for me. I cannot, especially long-term projects, I can't do. If I get a job for one big piece, that's totally suited for me. I love doing things like that, but I cannot do long-term projects, and that's who I am. And now that I know that when they come across my plate, I'm not the one who is suited to do this. Like, just please, like, don't, like, not, at least not right now. Like, don't ask me to do another long-term project, please. I'm going to turn it down. I'm going to say no.
And you don't have to
Now I know who I
believe.
am.
What was that?
Now I know who I am. But yeah, go on.
No, that's great. That's amazing. And I just feel like what both of you were saying is that I feel the same way. It feels good when you're acknowledged for your work by somebody you admire, or even if it's not a big company and it's somebody who's like sees what your style is and they want what you do, because we've all worked so hard for that, to develop your style, to develop a pipeline that you can produce and deliver and deliver quality and stuff. And so it feels good to have that recognized, to have somebody offer to pay you money to do what you do. That
Oh, yeah.
always feels good. But it's like that's not the only metric on the decision of whether to take it on or not. And I guess like you can also I guess towards like more the self-directed artists out there that want to do that, like their own stuff as well, which again is not paid, especially up front. Like your own stuff is never paid up front. I guess when it's a job like that where you're like, I don't know if I should take this or not, I would weigh it against the thing you want to make yourself and be like, will this pay enough money that I will feel good about having taken that instead of doing my thing? And if or will this give me the skills I could actually use for this? Like, will it be something that can serve this thing that I want to do that's mine in some way? And if you go down the list and the answer is no, then definitely don't take it. But in my case, like this month, I took those two jobs because I realized I'm going to use this as an opportunity to learn digital, which is going to help me with the pipeline for my story. And I'm running out of unemployment, so I need the money. Like it was all like yes, except for the time thing. And I was like, I can live with it. In the zoomed out view of how long this book has taken me, like 1 month away from working on this full time is not going to kill me. And that's why I said yes. But now next month, I'm pretty much saying no to stuff. And so I'm going to try to toggle it back and forth where I'm saying yes and saying no and not really putting myself out there. But I just wanted to bring that up just in terms of, oh, there's one other thing in terms of self-directed work that I've really struggled with. And for anyone who hasn't done self-directed work or is new to it, or maybe has been doing it for a long time and is beating themselves up about getting stuff done, I just wanted to acknowledge it's actually really hard to do because external deadlines are kind of, at least for me, are everything. Like a client or somebody telling you they need this by this time, or a show saying they need art on the wall by this date is like a bigger motivation than anything you could do yourself, unless you have like really strong discipline. And there are people out there that are very, very disciplined and don't need anyone to tell them when to finish something. But I've been doing this for years and years, like self-directed work, and I still struggle with getting stuff done as quickly as I do it for other people, or for a show, or for an actual deadline. So I impose deadlines on myself when they're not there, and that's how I get things done in terms of time management for like a big project. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there too.
Yeah, it is really hard to take your own self seriously when you're doing self-directed work, and to really like impose, like, because sometimes I even impose deadlines on myself when I'm like, okay, I'm going to finish this by this time. And then I look at the schedule, I'm like, well, but do I have to? And I haven't gotten the chance to really redeem myself for quite a long time because I haven't really been able to do my own self-directed projects in a while because I've been doing freelance and working. But I would love to take on that challenge again and see if that actually works for me. Because deadlines, yeah, they feel, that stress will get me working, like nothing else. But at the same time, if that stress doesn't feel real, like my mind is not going to be convinced by myself. So I have to find a way to convince my own mind to like go to action and do stuff. Um, but what I also wanted to bring up too was right now we're all in the middle of deadlines. And so if all this seemed negative, like I promise you, it's just because of where we're at in life. Like I can't speak, I'm not speaking for everybody, but I'm assuming everybody feels the same, that we do appreciate like the jobs that we get. Like it pays our bills, it feeds us, it puts food on the table. Like this is what we train for. This is what we are meant to do. And so we're not saying that having freelance jobs or having a big job is a bad thing, but it's just being realistic with yourself on if you have the capacity to take it on or not is really all that we're trying to assess for ourselves, and trying to give you that knowledge of just like, this is what happens if it gets bad. So try not to let it get bad, because that stress is going to loom over you and it's going to feel like a chore more so than something that is enjoyable and that you trained your whole life for. So try not to let yourself get to that point. And I say try, it's going to happen. I'm sorry in advance, but it's definitely going to happen. But learn from every time that it happens and make yourself stronger from each situation that you experience, because we can only all learn and grow from this. But I personally really appreciate all the jobs that I've gotten. Like they've been amazing. They've allowed me to create diverse characters and put things in the world that I'm really proud of. And it's drawn more followers to my Instagram, and I've been able to make continuous income from doing certain jobs. And so I definitely appreciate them. But what I don't appreciate is when people expect a lack of work-life balance from you, or if they're not understanding of your situation, or if they're trying, you cannot squeeze blood out of a stone, right? So try not to give blood when you don't have any. For it, just to have a weird analogy there, like really, like you cannot get from a dry well. So
I just want to say also, don't say yes to everything.
you don't have to.
Don't get overly excited and say, yeah, I'll do it, I'll do it, I'll do it. And you realize, oh, this doesn't really pay enough for me to be all night to hit this deadline, or to juggle multiple things at the same time and still try to have a life. Um, like my anxiety levels go through the roof. I get really moody when I'm out, and it's not cool for anybody. But yeah, I mean, I get really moody when I'm stressed out, and I mean, it's all due to me saying yes to too much. We're trying to figure out how I'm going to uh, get everything done that I want to get done in the course of a day without having to be up until 2 a.m, all week. So yeah, the lack of sleep, everything you said, I just like 100%. Like it's all. Um, but then when the job's done, you realize you've been kept awake from pure adrenaline.
Yeah.
Right. And then when it's done and they say it's approved, it's kind of like it all just drains out of you. All that stress drains out of you. You want to do absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking forward to that because I've got so much Disney Plus to catch up on. No, we like what we do.
We do. We really do.
But I really do.
This is not a woe is me episode. This is what we went to school for. I mean, my God, if it's not illustration, it's music, it's dance, it's acting. How many actors?
Every field.
Every creative field. How many actors do you watch? They break up. They two people, they get together, then somebody goes on location and films a movie, and they come back and relationship's over. Well, you was gone for 6 months, but I was filming with Steven Spielberg. Like, that's Steven Spielberg. How was I going to pass it up? You chose him over me.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, how many actors have you seen just like completely disappear from the public eye? Like that's burnout. That's all the pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's you. Sometimes there's a wall that you hit that you can't go any further, and you're like, I gotta walk away from this, or else I'm going to pay for this.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, like, you think about all of those creative fields, and then we're just talking about 2D art.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
yeah. There's writers I know that write like 4 books a year. I'm like, how? How do you do that? That's insanity to me.
Right.
Like, I can't even do one.
Right.
Crazy,
I think about you talk about crunch time. I think about the animators that are sleeping under their desk right now, working on South Park. You know, that's somebody's life. They said they chose that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I guess.
I mean, and like oftentimes I don't know what's
Tonight,
better either.
They chose that.
Yeah, like they don't see that there's a possibility of having an actual balance, because they're like, well, like this must be what it's like. And oftentimes you can't see outside of that. Because I remember I was there, like when I was working in animation, like I was definitely doing 8-hour weeks. And there was like an entire month where I just didn't get a single day off. And the only reason I got a day off was because the studio was going under renovation at the time. So we couldn't physically come in. And like, I just remember that first day that I had outside, like at brunch with a friend. And I'm just like looking at like the sunlight and everything around me. I'm like, oh, life. Oh, I remember this. Like, it's just like seeing the sun out of a cave for the first time. Like, it felt crazy to me. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I gotta get out of here. Like, this is not good. And at that point, I was busting my ass to work on a show that was garbage. It was such a terrible show. Like, I hated the show. And we worked hard on it. We made amazing art for it. That show was awful. And it was like just counter to everything that I believed in. I was like, I think that this is bad. This is trash. Like, I'm embarrassed to put this out in the world because like, I have my name on this and this is awful. And I worked all that time for that.
And you know, sometimes that's necessary, but
sometimes it's necessary.
Yeah.
It was necessary then.
Yeah. But I guess like 10 years in, 15 years in, if you realize you're still there, like feeling that way, then it's like maybe reassess. But I did also want to say that it's like creativity is so hard to pin down as a product or as a system, which is what, you know, clients want from us pretty much, is like reliable productivity, reliable quality, you know, and it's like creativity on demand. And so that is why we struggle. I think like artists have a bad reputation with being flaky or being last minute. And it's because this shit's hard, you know, it's really, really difficult to have this on command. And it has nothing to do with how good you are or how masterful you are or how lazy you are. It's none of that. It's just difficult to do, you know? And for all of these fields that you were just talking about, like acting or writing or even like athletes and stuff. And for me, it's just been, I don't see this as a whiny episode, by the way. I see it as we're just trying to preserve our relationship with our art. You know, we're just trying to make sure that we don't start hating what we do because it becomes a grind and it becomes work. And I don't believe in that quote where it's like, you know, do what you love and you'll never work it any day in your life. It's like, it's still work, damn it. It's still hard work, you know? And it's like, it's about work-life balance where you won't feel like it's a job, you know, that it's like sucking your soul. But anything has the, you know, has the capacity to be draining, you know, even if you started off loving it. And we're just trying to find ways to balance that. So that doesn't happen. So,
that do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life quote is really talking about passion, because you could be passionate and then just overwork yourself to death.
Yeah.
Whereas if you hate the job, you can't wait to leave.
Yeah.
Like, can you come in over the weekend? No. No.
I don't like working here. Yeah. And it's like, I mean, that has happened before. Like I went, like when I was in college, I went super hard on this book, like with all these illustrations in it. And I think I burned an essential part of myself out permanently. Like it's gone now. Like whatever that drive was, part of that is gone. And like there's, I mean, even now there's some times where I'm working on my own personal work and I just don't have the energy to do it. And that excitement, like a lot of that excitement has gone away just because I burnt so much of it just from going so hard for so long already. And I need to take a break and just like build that tolerance and momentum back. But it's because I just had gone nonstop for so long. And like you really do have to take care of yourself and preserve that relationship with your art, because I mean, I don't want to end up in that place where I don't want to do my own art anymore. There's a lot of people who do walk away from it because it's like, this is too much. Like, you know, and it's okay if you walk away from it. I understand if you have to, but like for me personally, like I don't want to get to the point where I have to walk away from it, because I really do love doing it. I love this part of myself. But you know, like, and that's part of the reason why I try to value my personal time so much, is because that's essential for me to build back that love of the art that I do. Like I want to be able to take a long enough break that I actually miss doing art. And when I go back to it, I'm like, oh yes, back to it again. And I have a big smile on my face because I'm like, you know, I'm just making something that I'm really happy about. And if you burn that part out of yourself, you're not going to be able to summon that excitement and that joy. And that's what this episode is about, is like how do we keep that joy in our work? And part of it is not letting these projects take all of it out of you in the first place. So let's try to go and do and be better than we were yesterday and be better to ourselves. Not just be better artists, but be better people to ourselves. Because that's the most important. You know, you should come first. You should really come first. So try to preserve a little bit of that, please. And we'll try to do the same. Best we can anyway. But I think this is a good place to end it. So yeah. Thank you everybody for joining us. Again, make sure you take care of yourself the best you can. Appreciate the jobs you have, but don't say yes to everything and don't take on too much, because you have to value your life as well as your work. Make sure you balance both of them in a way that makes sense for you. We'll talk to y'all next time. See ya. Facts.